Hey, welcome back. I'm Ben Fisher, the owner and tattoo artist here at Inkrush. Congratulations, you've made it to lesson 3. So at this stage, you've already learned the theory behind how to tattoo a straight line correctly and physically practice with me, following along with 2 exercises. The first one being the row of straight lines and the second being the 3 to 4 rows of 1 centimetre by 1 centimetre boxes, where we covered not only doing straight lines, but also how to move and adapt your hand positioning depending on direction of that line. Please, if you haven't already, go watch these first and follow the course in order. By jumping lessons, the only person that's going to be missing out is you. Even with the skills that you've already learned so far, there's designs out there that you could tattoo, small designs that only consist of straight lines. However, what do we do when we come across lines that we can't do in one motion, or that are so long that the ink runs out before we reach the end? Well, you can't just stop and start a line without doing it correctly. And in this lesson, that's exactly what we're going to be covering: how to join tattoo lines correctly. Now, as easy as this sounds, it can completely ruin a tattoo if it's not done right. And that's why I thought it's necessary to cover it in its own lesson. The aim is that you should never notice when a line hasn't been done in one pass, one motion, an invisible join. So we're going to quickly cover the theory behind it and then put the whole thing into practice with a simple little exercise. Let's go to whiteboard. Okay, so when you're joining line work, there's a few things that you need to think about. So what I want to quickly cover is just go over again the motion in which you do a normal straight line if you were starting at A and stopping at B. So if that's your skin, when we're doing a straight line of starting at A, finishing at B, his goal is to go in nice, start moving across, and then come out in a smooth motion. So we're going in, slowly starting, and that's a nice little arch. Now then, this is where it comes completely different, because if we're doing a long line, A to B, and we're not going to be able to make it for whatever reason. Either we're going to run out of ink, or your hand physically can't move that amount of distance and it's uncomfortable. Pre-plan it in your head. I'm going to have to stop about halfway. So this is where it's a little bit different, and we're going to do an exercise to practice this. You're going to start the line the same, but as you're approaching the middle bit, what I want you to do is start tapering out. So it's not just coming out at skin. You're going to start tapering that line, and then as we go back into the skin to reconnect, we don't go to the end of the line. We start a little bit back where the ink's already in, where we start tapering, and we taper back into that line, and then finish your line again. So I hope that makes sense, and the reason being, X amount of ink deposited under this skin, and that's consistent throughout that line. Now, if we just go in as normal, as if we were doing a normal line, A to B, there's going to be ink deposited underneath that skin. If we then just stick the machine back in, there's going to be twice as much ink in this little bit, and what that's going to do is give you a line, and then you're going to end up with a little blob and then you're going to carry on your line. That's not what we want. We want it to be an invisible join. So doing it this way, there's ink deposited under the skin, it's equal, but as we start tapering out, that ink gets less to none. And then as we gradually taper in, it's a tiny bit of ink, and it builds that ink up. So the amount of ink is the same across the entire line. We're not going over the same area with the same depth. So what we want is the ink deposited under the skin the same throughout the entire thing. So as you approach it, end of your line, start tapering out, or you're running out of ink, or your hand can't move anymore, just taper your needle out at skin. Then when you're wanting to join back into that line, start a little bit further back and taper your needle back in. So I hope that makes sense. We'll go do a little exercise. It's a really good one, so it should definitely help you. And what we're after is perfect lines that once you've cleaned everything away, you cannot see that it's been done in two sections. It needs to look like that first time, just one line, A to B. We're going to be doing it in two goes, A, stopping halfway and then joining back into that line. But it needs to be invisible. So let's go get us practice mats, get this stencil drawn up and see how you do. Okay, so same as before. First of all, what I want you to do is just grab some paper, pencil, ruler and your carbon paper. I'm using this squared paper again just to make things easier. And what we're wanting to do is do the exact same as before. However, this time on this particular paper I'm going to do 4 squares, which is roughly 2 centimeters. We're just going to do a row of 2 centimeter lines, same distance apart, across, and that's going to be a stencil. And then we'll apply that to us practice skin, exactly the same as what we have done in previous lessons. So if you want to just do the same as me, follow along and do your lines. Just take it all the way across. Get your practice skin. So here's lines that we did previously, 1 centimeter. This time they're going to be double length. So get whatever solution that you want in. Little squirt. And then just apply your stencil. So as you can see, we've got now a row of straight lines, 2 centimeters. What I want you to do is at this stage just have a little break, give that 10-15 minutes to dry. Ideally it should be left overnight so it's bone dry. If you look at these stencils that we did the other day, I've not tattooed these yet, but even if you rub them, they're not smudging. If we rubbed these, they'd smudge everywhere. And same applies when you're tattooing a person. I always put stencil on and leave it a good 15-20 minutes at least. We'll have a drink, get all my workstation set up, and then we're ready to start tattoo. Obviously, these are synthetic, they're artificial skin, so they're not absorbing the moisture out of the stencil like normal skin would. So ideally, leave it overnight. This is not a complex design, it's just straight lines. So 15-20 minutes, it'll allow it a little bit of time to dry. It's not end of the world if it smudges a tiny bit. Just be careful when you're wiping it away, the excess ink, that you don't rub the other lines off as well. So same as every other time, let's get us gloves on before we start messing with machine. Getting everything ready to go. Same again, we're going to be using a 5-liner. And the reason why we've been doing everything with this same needle so far, this 5-liner, is because I want you to get used to how it feels. Later on, we're going to be using different needles. We're going to be using a tight 3, really small and fine. Then we're going to be using a 9, a 14, 18 and getting bigger. But I want you to notice how and get used to a particular needle, see how it feels. And then later on, when we're using different needles, you're going to feel the difference and notice how it's completely different depending on the size of the needle as well. It'll feel completely different in your hand. You're going to have to slow your hand movements down, or you could speed it up, change settings on your machine. For instance, we're using a 5 at the minute, but later on when we're using, say, a 14, your hand movements got to be a lot slower. And reason being, or some people will turn the machine up a bit so it runs that little bit faster and it's skin that little bit harder. And reason for that is the needle is it got a bigger surface area because there's more needles there. So the machine has got to work harder to force them needles into skin. But don't worry about that at this moment. We'll be covering all that in a future lesson. So get your machine set up, set your needle depth. Let's have a little practice now of doing these straight lines. So like I said, same as before, make sure your angles all correct. We're wanting to go from A right up here to B. Now to be fair, it's only 2 centimetres this line. You would be able to do that in one pass. But just for the nature of this exercise, we're going to get halfway, so we're going to wait for that little dot. We're going to travel up halfway, and then instead of just coming out like we did before, we're going to gradually come out like so. Now each time we do this, what I want you to do is when you do reach that halfway point and you come out, just wipe the excess ink away so it's clear. And then what I want you to do is start a little bit back where we started tapering and just taper back into that line, come to the end and come out nicely. So let's wipe that away, let's have a little look. And the idea is you can't see on that line, there's no wobble in middle, you can't see where it started or where I stopped halfway. Anybody looking at that would just assume it had been done in one go, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So I'll do another one with you. Remember, we're going to have a practice. Oh, I'm uncomfortable, I can't reach that far, or I'm going to run out of ink halfway. It's a little prediction, but the exact same applies. Wait for that little dot. As soon as that appears, right, I know I'm touching skin, let's go in. Nice smooth motion. Oh, I'm running out of ink, or I can't go any further. Gradually start coming out. And then at this stage you'd either have to top your ink up or change the position of your hand so you can continue that line. Gradually go in to meet back up with it and go to end. Let's give that a little wipe. So that one, you can see it's second half, that line's a bit bolder. You can see at the beginning it's quite faint, I didn't go in enough. So let's do the third one. I'll go through this one a bit quicker, just follow along with me. So we're not starting at the end of the line, we're going to come back a bit from where we started tapering and then go back in. Look for that dot. Yeah, so you can see that one's a lot crisper. It's the correct depth. It's nice. You can't see where I stopped and started halfway, which is exactly what we're looking for. So I'll do another one with you. Wait for that dot a little bit further in. Moving your entire arm, not just your fingers, gradually lifting out at skin. Give it a little clean. Starting a little bit back where we started tapering. Wait for that little dot. Gradually taper back in till you're at the correct depth. And then finish your line. So it is exactly the same as that previous lesson where we were doing our straight lines. Hopefully yours are not looking like this anymore. If they are, don't worry, don't stress. Just enjoy it, keep practicing, and eventually it's going to come. So I'll do another one with you and then just get to end of your line. If you're enjoying it, you're still having fun, you're not feeling stressed, you're seeing progress, they're getting better, do a couple of lines, have a cup of tea, take a little break. And it depends on how much time you've got to put into this practicing. If you've only got an hour or an hour and a half, just do as much as you can in that time, but make sure you're having plenty of breaks. So we're waiting for that dot. We're going to get roughly halfway, taper it out, give it a little wipe, taper back in and complete as line. And there you have it. If you want to finish rest, if you do prefer following along with me, just rewind video a little bit and go through it again on repeat and just follow along with me. I'll just do one more. So we're starting line exactly the same as before. Remember your positioning, angle of your machine. Get the very tip at needle, just touching skin so you can see a tiny deposit of ink. You know now that you're just touching surface at skin. So all we need to do is when that happens, just go a tiny bit further, start moving, nice, slow and controlled, gradually coming out at skin, tapering it out. And then to join back into that line so it's invisible, we're not just chucking needle in. We start a little bit back, gradually taper back in. And complete as line. And there you have it. Do as many rows as you want. A minimum, a bare minimum, complete at least one line. If you're really struggling with it, get halfway. Just take a break. Do not get stressed. It's really important that you're enjoying this process. If you are really eager to learn, then it should be enjoyable. So just work your way across. If you're feeling comfortable, do a couple of rows. And that is how you join a line together. And that's the same principle. It doesn't matter whether it's straight, curved, which we're going to be doing in next lesson. Any line, if you do need to stop to either top ink up, or you get into a point where you can't get your arm comfortable any further, and just gradually come out at skin, do whatever you need to do, change your hand positioning or top your ink up, and then gradually taper back into that same line. I hope that helps. Hey, so how did you find that? It's a lot harder than it first sounds, isn't it? Now, as always, a small portion of you will have just instantly got that, but for the majority of you, things won't be as easy at first, and that's absolutely fine. Just remember to take your time and follow along with me. After constant repetition, it'll start to feel natural. Don't overdo the practicing. It should be in small, enjoyable chunks. Well done for sticking with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.